Hello, welcome back everyone. I did a thing. So, I gave procedural generation a go. I was like, I might as well just try it. I want to make a roguelike, so let's try and make it as roguelike as possible. Okay, so let's try and do this. And it turned out to be easier than I thought. Kinda. Because when you think about procedural generation like Minecraft, the world building, that stuff's a lot harder to do, right? I haven't gone all the way to the deep end yet. This is dungeon generation, right? And it's made with preset tiles or preset external layouts, right? So you give it a general shape, kind of like you make like the Lego pieces and then you randomly put them together to make yourself a dungeon. And that way you can tailor the experience a bit more instead of just making everything like completely random, right? So this stuff is way easier, right? Let me show you what I got so far. This is the basis of the system that I'm building, right? So it's not going to be anything fancy just yet. Um, so let's go. So what do we get? We got to the side, right? So as you can tell, we had like just a couple of squares, and now we actually have a layout, right? And we have some stuff to break. Also, sorry if the sound effects are kind of loud. I'm still adjusting stuff. Anyways, so we have stuff to dodge, to break. Let's just dodge a lot of this stuff. Oh yeah, I fixed the golem. Check that out. How cool is that? That is way cool. Yeah, I spent quite a bit of time like tweaking the golem. I wasn't too happy with like the shots and all that, but now it kind of looks cooler. Like it does the whole toom toom toom, and then like there's a rain of bullets that comes down. Right? Like check that out. Oh, and if you stand on it, wait, it does like multiple damage. Right. He's not as deadly as I want him to be, but I'll fix him. Anyways, let's keep going. So as you can tell, it's your standard dungeon, right? I only have a couple of tiles so far. When I say a couple of tiles, it's like a couple of rooms, right? Everything inside the room is being like randomly generated, but the room itself, like the shapes, I only have a couple of them, like just to make everything work. But as you can tell, like the enemies, they're different ones. You get different colors. We have been getting the golem instead of the red gem. Yeah, there's another golem. Let's just skip this one, right? Oh, here we got the gem. The gem we can't break, so we just smash and grab, and then we move away. We got another gem. Let's just skip past these guys. And then after 10 rooms, we get to the end. So we generate 10 rooms for us to like go across the dungeon, and then we get to the end, and the 11th room is always going to be a door for us to go somewhere else. Now, if I change the scene, and I go back to the same one, see? Now we start differently, right? Last time we went this way, and now we give this away. And this we have a thing there, a gem. We have another gem there. Is this the way? Yes, this is the way. So, it's always going to be slightly different, right? The layouts, they're always going to be different. Not the layouts, but, the combination of layouts. The layouts themselves, I still need to make, like, a bigger pool. So we can have, different dungeons, right? But this was just for me. See, we got to the end. That was 10 plus 1, which is this one. Right. So every time I change the scene, we're always going to get a new one. Right. Now this time we went up. So if I go again, we go this way. If I go again, we go up again. And so on and so on and so on. Right. So how am I doing this? Also, let me show you. Because I actually prepared this to like show you the thing. First of all, let me show you the rooms. So it's external layouts. All the way in the bottom, we have the external layouts. And they're all marked, depending on what they do. We have 3 exits, because that's all I have so far, because we're going in one direction. That's what I'm working with, is just going in a certain direction. To make it go in all directions, I'm going to have to, like, do what I done already, but, expand on it. So we have 3 exits, 3 possible exits. And then we have the normal ones, the up, down, left, right. And then we have the dead ends, right? So the dead ends look like this. Oh yeah, I need to click away. So a dead end looks like this little thing. It's just a corner. And this is like, we're going to pick a direction. If we go left, up, down, left, or right. And then the other 3, if they're not in use, they get a dead end and they close off the room, right? So we pick one side and then we close off everything else that's open. And if we look at an actual room, let's say stone room right. Because I say right a lot. I'm aware. Okay. So let's say we're in the middle. And then we generate the room to the right. This is what we get. The yellow squares, they're the pots, the breakable stuff, right? The red squares, they're the enemies, the melee enemies, the little jellies that walk around, or slimes, whatever you want to call them. And then the orange one is either a golem or a red gem, the turret thing that shoots at you. And that's about it. So we have a certain amount of these, right? We have a lot of these, the yellow ones. And then we pick a random number of them. We generate something out of them, and then we delete the rest, right? And we do the same thing for the enemies and so on. For example, the enemy, we pick between a certain number of these. It can be all of them. It could be 2 of them. Then we pick which enemy gonna pop out of here. And then when he pops out, we delete the thing, right? And then this is the spawner for the next room. So that's how we're working. We're working with a little spawner thing that sends us to the next direction. Now, the way we get all of this together, it's kind of cool. I'll show you that as well. So let's go to... No, this is not it. I need to close this one. I haven't used this one in a while. Let's go here first. And now let me show you how this like kind of like starts working by itself. Let's set the camera to... Wait, that's the timer. Set the camera to 0.2. Hopefully that we can still see stuff. And let's set the timer to... we don't need the timer. The timer's just here for me to like debug test and to work out stuff in my head. It becomes so much easier to figure this stuff out if you put a timer on it, gating the generation, so you can actually see the generation happening. That's so good for debugging. Like, I was having an issue with the order of things, and I couldn't work it out because it happened so quick. But the moment I put a timer on it and I slowed everything down and I could see everything happening slowly, it was night and day. It was like, oh, that's the issue. So here's a tip for you. Make a timer for this kind of stuff and make it slow. Right. Let's make it real slow. Let's make it like every 3 seconds, something's going to happen. Right. And let me show you the generation happening. There you go. Level 3. So, the beginning of the level, we have 4 possible directions to choose. So, we're going to pick one of these, right? If we're either going to go up, down, left, or right. And then once we pick that one, we're going to create the room on that direction. And the other 3, we're going to create dead ends. So we close off the room, right? And this is just going to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat until we get to the last one. All right, check this out. So we start off, and we get the worst one. As you can tell, there is no blue squares. There's no spawners, so it ends, right? This was here just for testing purposes. So let's try again. So this time we get to the right. Right. So we're going to keep on. Oh, get away. I need to follow the room. Oh my god. I can't see my character. He's so small. This is already generated so quick. Let's try this again. Let's see if I don't screw it up. My character's so small, I can't see him. Alright, where are we going? We're going up. Wait. We're going this way. This is probably still too fast. Okay. Let's make the generation a bit slower so I can actually keep up. I thought this was going to be kind of cool to show you. Let's make it every 5 seconds. Because I'm a slowpoke. No? My eyes are really bad. And if I have to work with like ant-sized characters, Jesus. It's so hard. Where are we going? Okay, we're going this way. Get away. So as you can tell, there's the blue squares. And then it generates a room. And then the other squares get turned into dead ends. Right? So where are we going? We're going up. And here, where are we going? We're going this way. And here, I'm gonna keep going. And now, I'm sorry, I know the golems are kind of annoying. See, I tried playing this game, what I have right now with music, and it's completely different. When you have a soundtrack, you don't really hear the annoying repetition of certain sounds that much. It just becomes sort of like in the background. Right, so we made it all the way to the end. And as you could see, like, what was happening was, we generated the room, there was blue squares. And then we picked a side, we went to that side, we deleted the previous blue squares, we made dead ends, or the other way around. We made dead ends, and then we deleted the blue ones, and then we followed on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one, right? So now let me show you the logic behind this. And we can like bring this down again because we don't need it anymore. Do I need anything from up here to explain you? Also, before I forget, let's turn the camera back to something that I can actually work with, like 0.75. That's okay. We don't need that. External layouts, that's something else. Camera, something else. Where do we start? Okay, this is just the timer for me to show you stuff. At the beginning, this is a... Okay, we start here. This is very important, right? So at the very start of everything, the moment the scene begins, we need to do this. We're going to set a boolean of the spawning, the spawn room. That's the group where I have the 4 spawners. The spawn up, spawn down, spawn left, and spawn right. That's the spawners that create the rooms, right? I made a group, and I put them all in. And at the beginning of the scene, I give them all a boolean that I call active, and I put it to true. this is important because this is going to make the distinction between which spawners get deleted and which ones move on to the next one, right? So we start by making this true. Then this is the timer. We don't care about this because you don't need this. This is just for slowing stuff down. Then we go to procedural generation. We generate the level, and we start here. So we make this gate thing where you only create regular rooms if this variable is below 10. If it's above 10, we create the exit, right? So if it's below 10, then we generate the room. So the rooms, we need to make a distinction between every possibility that we get, right? So at the beginning, we have a four-way, right? We have the four blue ones. We have the spawn up, spawn down, spawn left, and spawn right. It's this one, four-way. And we check, do these four exist? Does the spawn one exist? One. Does the spawn down exist? One. Does the spawn left, right? If we have one of each, then we add to the room count plus 1, and then we generate a random number between 1 and 4, right? With the room direction. That's the variable I'm using to determine which way we're going. And then again, we make every possible scenario. So if we get the number 1, then we create the room to above, right? So we generate the stone room up, and then we make dead ends for the other 3. Dead end for down, for left, and for right. And we get the up room. And we create these at the spawners, right? So you create stone room up at the spawn room up .x, spawn room up .y. Right? That's what I call the blue square things. And everything else gets dead ends. If we get the number 2, then up gets a dead end, the down gets a dead end, everything gets a dead end, but left gets a room. Actually, no, the 2 is down, so if we get number 2, we have a room that goes down. If you have number 3, we have a room that goes left. If you have number 4, we have a room that goes right? And everything else gets dead ends. And the dead ends, just like the other one, each one goes to its own spawner, right? So it's nice to keep everything the same name, right? So dead end down, spawner down, or spawn room down, you know? Right. So, but here's the conundrum. So we have 4 spawners, right? So we create the rooms, but now the new room also has a spawner. But to create the next room, we need to check this. So for example, we just had the 4-way. The next one, let's say it's a 3-way, right? So now we have, let's say we generated upwards, right? So now we have the same. We have up, left, and right, but we don't have down because we just came from down, right? If we had down, we would just create over the other room. That's not good. No bueno. So how do we keep all of this from having, how can I say this? How do we make it so that there's only one set of spawners to pick from every time it generates? And that's where that Boolean thing comes in. So every time we generate a room, we skip all the way to the end to this, to the delete room spawner. So if the spawner has the active as true, then it gets deleted. And then after this, they get deleted, the next event turns all your spawners, all the ones in this group, to active true. So then GDevelop goes all the way to the end, goes all the way back up, goes down again, and now we just deleted all the ones that were active and all the ones that exist now from the new room, they're the ones active and they're the only ones that exist. Hopefully that made sense. I'm sorry. I should have created some visual aids or something. But the point is, if you think about it, we had 4 spawners. We created a room that went up. All the spawners created something. All the spawners were active because we created the variable right at the start, right? And we told them, you're active. So after all this, they're active, so they all get deleted. But we just created new ones that weren't active, so they stay. And now they're branded active. But since we already get past the deleting event, now they have a new chance to create a room before those ones get deleted. I hope that made better sense, right? So it's a loop, basically. They generate the room. The new room has they generate the room. They get deleted, but the new room has new spawners. Those spawners now become active. Then those spawners create the room. They get deleted, but the new ones, they generate the room and then they become active. Okay, so it just keeps going and going and going. And every time you have a different section, right? We do this. We check which combination we have, and then depending on the combination, for example, this one has 3. So we generate a number from 1 to 3. And then we do the same shebang, right? If it's number 1, then we generate a room, and the other 2 get a dead end. If it's number 2, we generate the room on that side, and then the other 2 get a dead end, and so on, and so on, and so on. And so far, this is the only combinations that I have, because this is the only combinations that I need. For example, the one way up, it's because it's a corner piece. So this one only has the up one, right? There we go. So 1 is the only one that I have, so it only needs to create the room up. There's no dead ends on this one. Hopefully that made sense. It's like I've been working on this very slowly, and then the room interior is quite simple as well. Well, simpler. Let's see. Let's generate an enemy, for example. So to generate an enemy, Ruby. To generate an enemy, we do a repeat. And for the number of times, we do this big thing, right? So we check at the moment how many instances of the spawn enemy exist on the scene, right? So the room has just been generated, and it has like 4, right? So we check how many is it? Oh, it's 4. And then we subtract a random in range between 0 and 2. So we make, diversity, right? We either subtract 0 and we keep the 4, or we subtract 1 and we keep the 3, or we subtract 2 and we keep the 2. So there's always 2 enemies, right? Depending on how many we put in the room. But the important part is this one, the scene instances count. So we check that if you put this in, it's going to check how many of this object exist in the scene, right? And then you do the rest. And then again, we ran a number from 1 to 3. And if it's 1, it spawns that one. And if it's 2, it spawns that one. If it's 3, it spawns that one, right? And then we delete everything, right? So if you do a repeat event, this is going to repeat as many times as you tell it, and it's not going to move on to the next event until it's done repeating. So for example, if this ends up being 3, it's going to repeat all of these events 3 times. And then it's going to move on to the next one. Until that happens, it's going to keep doing this. So let's say we just repeated this 3 times. So now there's 1 spawner left, right? Let's say the room has 4. We generated 3 enemies. We don't need the extra. So we have 1 more. So after we're done repeating, we delete all the leftovers, right? Delete all the spawn enemies. We need to do this because remember, we keep generating new rooms. So if we have one leftover and we generate a new room, and that room has 4, now you have 5 instead of 4, right? And then if that one has leftovers, then the next room is going to have even more. And you're going to keep generating enemies that you don't want. You want to create a room, do everything you need to do, calculate everything you need to calculate in that room, and then you delete all the leftovers, delete everything you don't need, and then you move on to creating the next room. And that's the thought process while you're doing this. Well, my thought process, right? I know this is a lot of talking, man. I just figured this stuff out today, okay? I've been working very slowly on this so I don't mess up and I can like do the best possible scenario in case I want to add stuff. And I think this is very flexible. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, this is the spawners and everything else works the same. For example, if I show you the gener let's spawn breakables, which is the urns or the pots. See, it's the exact same thing. We check how many they are, we subtract a random number of them, and then we just generate it, and then we break it. All the leftovers, we just delete them. Right? And again, it's the repeat that's important. So this way, we're going to generate a certain amount of repeats, and when it's done repeating, then he moves on to the next event. Right? Hopefully, that helped you. Because I think this is very flexible. Because anything you want to add, because I'm already thinking like I can add multiple scenarios and then account for those scenarios to create branching paths that are going to make a more enjoyable dungeon, right? You can create so much stuff with it, and it's not completely random. It's not fully procedural, right? It's not like click a button, world has been created, right? You have some control over it, and you can add these pockets of design to it with randomness, which I think is like the best combination. Um, so it's not too dull, I suppose. I wanted to show you something else, or I wanted to talk about something else, but I forget now because I talk too much. But yeah, that's the generation I've been using. Oh yeah, the exits. The exit is the same thing, right? Generate rooms, generate interior. So when it's over 10, we do the exact same thing, right? Let's say we have a 3-way. We check which way. We check if it is a 3-way. You know, if that one doesn't exist, if these 3 exist, generate the number. And then that number, if it's this number, then we generate the exit that way, and the other ones get a dead end, right? And the reason I say this is super flexible. Also, I'm really sorry if there was something you couldn't see because of the webcam. I'll run through the events again. Um, the way the reason I say this is super flexible is because instead of just having these, I can have like spawn the room, like the room direction, and then run another random number. And then if the number is X, whatever, instead of having a dead end, we can create like a little room, like a treasure room, or a trap room, or something room, or like a mini boss room, or whatever, right? Or like a big room in the opposite direction to fool the player. Like you get there, it's like, oh, this is the dead end, and you have to go back. That kind of stuff. But anyways, let me just show you one more time, and then we're done. Done ski for today's ski. Let's see. Generate level. Generate rooms. And 4-way. There you go. So everything else works the same way, right? So you just if you work this out, what's on screen right now, you can work out everything else that I just told you about. Right? So, I hope this helped. I hope you're going to introduce some of this stuff onto your games because it makes stuff so much cooler, right? Every time I press that play button, even though it's so basic, I have a random dungeon to run across. I just need better enemies and more variety, right? I need better design, but that's on me. And it's going to make something cool, I think. And then at the end, we have this stuff, right? We delete the objects, and I think that was it. If you're wondering about like, oh, what's that thing that says spawner? That was just hide spawns, but we don't need to hide it because I'm deleting them. And that's about it. Just keep in mind the stuff that you're using like at the beginning of the scene. Like for example, I had like at the beginning of the scene give the enemies health. But if you're still generating the level, it's not at the beginning of the scene. So when the enemies were spawned in, they had 0 health, so they just exploded instantly. Right? So you need to, when you create the enemy, give the health to the enemy at that point, not at the beginning of the scene. Right? So yeah, this is kind of cool. Oh my god, level 1. I'm so weak. This was basically on a whim. I was wondering, like, I was making a dungeon just to make like a basic dungeon so I can start working on like an upgrade system or whatever else system. And then I went, you know what? Let me try make this random. And I started working it out. And it's like, oh, this is not so tough. So I took like a day and a half to just think this stuff over. I really like that. I'm still debating. I'm still debating whether I want it to be like a big shot, like it goes toom toom toom, and then at the end it goes, shoop, you know, just this big explosion. Because when you don't have any sound, it would be less annoying and more visually pleasing. But when you actually have music playing, you don't really care about the sound effects don't really, you know, annoy you that much. This is gonna be true for any game. Like if you play without sound, it's always like sounds do get in your ears and they start getting annoying if you listen to them too much. But that's where the power of music comes in and smooths everything out. I think I have too many enemies as well. I was just testing it out. And I think I made too many. Ooh, I thought it was an enemy. Well, it is an enemy. But you can't break that one. And ta-da! We made it all the way to the end. So yeah. This is cool. I'm going to keep working on this. And yeah. So, I'll catch you guys in the next one. I hope you learned something. Let me know. Subscribe. Leave a comment. All that jazz. You know, it really helps. And let me know if you want me to explain anything better. If there was something you saw that was like, oh, this is kind of cool. Like, how do you do this? You know, let me know and I'll try and explain how things work. All right? I'm really excited. Again, I got a little bummed out for a moment. I was just like, oh man, what am I doing this for? You know, I don't know. I lost my edge for a moment. And then I started working on it again. It's like something started clicking. It's like, all right, I'm excited about this game again. You know, I'm really excited. Let's go. Anyways, I'll catch you guys on the next episode. Until then, you have a good time and peace out.